4:10, I'm calling the November 20th Tweed Haven Airport Authority Board meeting to order. First order of business is to approve last month's minutes, excuse me. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Mike, thank you. There's second?
Second.
And second, Serena, thank you very much. Any comments, suggestions, corrections? Seeing none, let me ask for a vote. Oh, Linda, you're just adjusting your camera. Great. Seeing none, let me ask you for your vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, that passes. The next item is the chairman's report. We have one item on the chairman's report that I'd like to bring to your attention, and that is the drafting of the executive director's performance evaluation for 2024 and the subsequent identification of objectives and KPIs or key performance initiatives for 2025. I've been working with Tom on the drafting of the 2024 performance appraisal, as well as what those 2025 objectives and KPIs look like. Our intention is to have that draft prepared for presentation to the board next month. So if there's any questions regarding what those objectives and KPIs may look like, feel free to send me an email and I'll be glad to share what those objectives and KPIs are at this point. Any comments or questions on that? Perfect. With that, we're going to move on to the executive director's report. And I'll pass that over to Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last meeting, there was one action item. Melena sent out to the board members the Title VI policy statement. So that's completed. The PFC application, I had previously indicated that I'd be presenting an application to the board this month. However, after consultation with the FAA, it was determined that it's best that we submit an amendment, which I had done, which I've completed rather. And that was primarily because we were collecting money faster than we anticipated because of the growth in traffic, as well as some better information we have on two projects that were in the existing application, which is the firehouse extension and the West Apron. So we will be coming back in the fourth quarter of next year with the full-blown new PFC application, which will include the terminal and runway, a number of other projects, probably over 50 million plus areas. So just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of that.
What did the amendment look like? Was it just a?
It's like a 1 or 2 page document we send in. We give, or well, it's some justification for why on the cost of things. We can send you that.
Yeah,
that too.
But yeah.
So
we're not doing the full blown PFC
No,
application.
we're modifying an existing. It's an amendment to the existing
one, right?
approved PFC application. So what you do is you normally put in a cost, what you think it's going to be, and then when the bids come in, they come in a little higher. You go and amend it so that you're allowed to draw down money for that project.
Okay. And it's only an amendment because of the items that you had in there that you had planned on
Because
using the funds for?
they're in the current application, you approve
Everything that you wanted to use them for is already in the
Yes.
current one?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so the amendment basically takes you through the next year.
yeah. Yep. Just been over here.
Okay.
Conduit financing, we continue to work with Avports and the Carter English to develop documents associated with the conduit financing. I have a bit of a lengthy presentation. I'm going to try to go through it as fast as possible. It is the capital improvement plan, and you'll see.
Tom, could I ask you to get a little closer to a speaker? I'm just having trouble hearing you. Part of it is
Okay.
my elderly
I'm
hearing.
sorry. So this plan is a dynamic plan, and it's what FAA uses to allocate funding. So you're going to see some interesting things in here, and I'm sure there may be a lot of questions. I'll be glad to try to take them. But I'd like to just try to get through it first and then take the questions afterwards. So Felipe, do you have that?
Yeah.
So as part of the lease and development agreement and the amendment to the operating agreement, Avports is required to submit an airport development plan, which consists of the airport capital improvement plan, which is FAA funded projects, which I'm going through. And then there's a number of other development plans too, which I think Jeremy's going to be looking at. So can you go to the second slide? Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is just a table of contents, and you'll see there's 4 pages here of projects. If you look at the project number 25-1, for example, that's the federal fiscal year of 25, and it's the first project in our, there's no real priority or anything, it's just a listing of the project to keep in, categorized. So you'll see we have 25-1 through 10 there. Next page, we continue on through 25 through 25-19, and we go into federal fiscal year 26. And again, remember, this is a planning and funding type document. So keep scrolling, there's 4 pages of this. This again is just a table of contents. Excuse me.
What's the fiscal year that they're using? Is it October?
They start October 1.
Okay.
Yeah, through the end of September. Next one, and then one more. So again, the fiscal year 2025 development plan update is part of the requirement that Avports has under both agreements. And the purpose is to update the authority on the projects that the current new HEN LLC development plan has and the CIP. And also update the authority on estimated project costs and funding sources. So we're going to go through the estimated costs and sources. The key here is to understand that this is a dynamic plan and could change based on federal funding, a number of items, actual costs that come in or whatever else. Next one, please. So some notes, the federal fiscal year assigned to a project may differ from the year in which the project is actually constructed. It could be constructed over a number of years as well. The environmental permitting and mitigation costs are generally included in the East Side Passenger Terminal projects, but we're currently looking to reallocate them to either the terminal or runway as that they support. And again, the development plan is subject to change based on funding availability, revised construction schedules, cost estimates, required approvals, and other factors. Next. This is and I'll show this at the end too. This is a roll-up of all the projects and their approximate costs, estimated start and end years. And what you're going to see as we get into detail here, all of these are broken down individually in various different components. So this is a roll-up of it. For example, you see the East Side Passenger Terminal design, permitting, construction, $191 million. Throughout the slides that I'm going to show you, you'll see different pieces of that. Next. First one is 25-1. That's design and permitting of the extension of the runway. You can see it's $2.5 million, FAA entitlement 1.7, and 800 PFC based on subject to eligibility. As we go through these, you'll see the different funding sources and what we anticipate receiving. Next one. 25-2 is runway rehab. The existing runway pavement that's out there needs to be rehabilitated. This is for design, permitting, cost benefit analysis, and letter of intent. Estimated at 2.3 million, all PFC eligibility.
That was just for
This is
the planning part,
Yes.
not the actual work.
correct. You'll see subsequent phases of construction. There's multiple phases of that.
Could you just take a minute and go through the items down below? I assume those are all the funding sources.
Yes,
Could
so-
you just explain
Sure,
each one?
that's a good point. Thank you. FAA entitlement is under the airport improvement program. Each airport is given an allocation. It's their entitlement, and it's based on the number of in-plane passengers. So as your enplanements increase, your FAA entitlements increase, and that's essentially unknown or given that you are entitled to, that you'll get each year. The FAA bill AIG is part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And there's one more round of that. Again, it was 5 years, $5 billion nationwide, and it's very competitive on a national basis. FAA discretionary is part of the AIP or Airport Improvement Program money that is just what it says, discretionary. If it's a high priority project, they have what's called national priority rating. You compete nationally for discretionary funds. And as we were talking earlier, for example, maybe another project somewhere else in the country couldn't get completed, it goes back into the pot and you compete for that. So it's totally discretionary, but very competitive and based on high priority projects.
And that is more specific to an actual project. Versus the first two are kind of
Yeah,
like a checkbook and you can use it wherever you want.
yes, that's,
Okay.
yeah, these are the higher priority runway, safety, fire, that kind of thing.
Okay.
The bill ATP is another part of the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, and that has to do with terminals and projects such as that. FAA Part 150 is the noise pot of money. It's allocated specifically for Part 150 studies and noise. And PFC is the passenger facility charge, which we just talked about the amendment previously. Local will be either money that is fronted by the lessee, airports, and or then replenished through bonds or whatever else, but it's the local share. It's the airport's share of the money.
Thank you.
So 25-3 is a very small project. It includes the cost for FAA reimbursable agreement associated with the approach to runway 220 options, $43,000, and that's local share. Project 25-4 is continuing its phase 1 construction of runway 220. And you'll see here it says the public construction funding to start in FY26. So this again is just programming it, getting it started, and the money would be fronted, and then the allocation from the government funds would come in 26. So that's why there's nothing listed under that. Same type of funding for the next phase of the rehabilitation of the runway. We're looking to get what is known as a letter of intent. The letter of intent, what that does is FAA will only reimburse for design projects. They will reimburse for construction if you have a letter of intent. So if you have a program or a project that may take you 5 years, rather than wait for each year discretionary entitlement, if you get a letter of intent, I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but I don't think they've ever defaulted on one. And you can put the money up and then they will reimburse you as it's appropriated through Washington. So that's what we're intending for this portion of the runway. And again, you see the funding would start in 26, the government funding. Next project is 25-26, and you'll see this often in here. This one is the taxiway apron design and construction phase 1 on the east side, $6.8 million. The bill AIG is 4.737. It was just updated literally yesterday. Another announcement came out. So that number's current. And then the estimated PFC is 2.1 million. Again, you're going to see this in multiple times. At the end, I'll show you the roll up again for that whole east side development.
And this projected cost is an estimate, a proposal from
For what?
that cost of 6.8 million. Is that was an estimate provided by
The engineers.
the engineer company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Multiple engineering companies have looked at this. Project 25-7. That's next year. Again, east side passenger terminal taxiway and apron construction phase 2. And that's about 2.7 million. Again, estimating that to come into bill AIG. 25-8 is a terminal building and environmental mitigation construction phase 1 for the east side. That's 73,400,000. 4 million anticipated from Bill ATP, 52 million from PFC, and 17,350,000 from local share. Project 25-9 is the environmental assessment scope change. That's for the environmental work that was done associated with the EA, 566,944 expected from FAA and funding. Project 25-10 is expansion of the firehouse, one bay extension, 1,000 square feet. And estimated at 3.6 million bill AIG and 2.59 in PFC. Next project is again continuation East Side Passenger Terminal. This is parking and roadway construction. And you can see it's 45,400,000. PFC is 9 million, the locals 36,320. That's primarily because those type of items are not eligible under the AIP. Next is 25-12, and that's utilities for the east side, estimated at 13 million, and that would be all PFC subject to eligibility. And we have project 25-13. These are the off-site improvements that would be necessary, and Connecticut DOT is working on that and determining what that will be. But the funding would be based on, this is basically like a placeholder for that. We'll have to find out what they come up with in the studies for the traffic intersections and things.
Was that actually like Hemingway Avenue kind of thing too?
It's probably Hemingway. It could be looking at the that whole High Street, all those areas, and again, determining what has to be done through conduct. So next is the acquisition of a snowplow with material spreader. That's $650,000 out of PFC. Project 25-15 is snow removal equipment storage facility upgrades. We are storing equipment outside, which is not a good thing. So it's expansion of that building. That's estimated 800,000, and that would be funded to PFCs. Project 25-16 is a sand shed associated with that same building for storage of sand. Small project, about $100,000. Project 25-17 is the land easement or acquisition that may be necessary for the taxiway A north extension. You may recall there was some concerns about this when the initial PFC application was drafted. This depicts the area that we are going to be extending it. The gray area to the left, where'd you go here? Sorry, but there you go. At the bottom to the left, that light gray area is existing, and so is the kind of dark black area there. We need to extend or bring that section of the taxiway further down so that we have adequate separation from center line.
Rich has his hand up.
I'm sorry,
Rich.
Rich has his hand up.
Rich Lassen.
Oh.
Oh, Rich, I'm sorry.
Tom, my question can wait till you finish going through the slides.
Okay, thanks. So again, there may be a slight, see that green triangle at the bottom. That may need either an easement or an acquisition, and that's what this project is for. Project 25-18 includes, again, land easement or acquisition for obstruction removal, and this may just be, a tree here or there, whatever is necessary. 25-19 is environmental review for the obstruction removals. There's an ongoing project to review the approach obstructions. This is a placeholder for a project to review potential environmental impacts if any obstruction removal is required. Project 26-1 is phase 2. It's going to include the construction of the extension of the runway. And estimated at just under 5.5 million, with 5.4 of that coming from entitlement and 99,000 out of discretionary. Next is the rehabilitation or the existing pavement design and construction phase 2 under that letter of intent. Remember, we said we would start getting the funding in 2026. So this would be 10,700,000 from FAA discretionary anticipated. Project 26-3, more of the east side terminal construction and environmental mitigation. That's $20 million. That's phase 2. And that would be hopefully bill ATP. Project 26-4, again, is continuation of taxiway apron construction phase 3, $4,939,000. You can see the split between entitlement, bill AIG, and discretionary. 26-5, again, continuation land obstruction, land acquisition if needed for obstruction removal of trees. Project 26-6 is phase 1. Calling it phase 1, it's actually in the overall program about phase 8, maybe or so of the sound insulation program, but this will continue that project. Project 27-1 is continuation of the extension construction. And this funding, again, was in 2026, but it's just the way the construction is split. 27-2 is again existing rehab, and that's 10,630,000. Hopefully all FAA discretionary because it's a very high priority project. 27-3 continues East Side Terminal apron work, and that's phase 4. Will be a reimbursement, and that's 3.4 million from entitlement. 27-4, another phase of land acquisition or obstruction removal. Again, if necessary for any trees that might need to be, or obstructions that may need to be removed, that's 500,000 from PSC. Noise soundproofing phase 2. Again, it's phase 2 just because it's phase 2 in this development plan, but it's a continuation of the RSIP for $3 million out of the Part 150 money. Federal fiscal year 28-1 is phase 4 of the extension and construction. Again, it was funded back in 2026, but that's again when it would take place. 28-2 is runway 220 rehab design and construction phase 4. Again, that's just the existing, and we had the funding done in 2026 and 2027.
Why are these broken up?
I'm sorry?
Why are they broken up like that?
It's a combination of the construction and the funding. So we, let's say the outboards would fund it up front, but then the funding is going to come in over multiple years.
So the job will get done like in one
Let's say
One job. It's
No.
not gonna get done in 3
it's
pieces.
going to be one job, different phases. Maybe, let's say it's 3 construction seasons, okay? The
Okay.
funding season may be 5 years.
Right,
So that's where it's showing the differences.
sorry. So you may, like, say the runway rehab, you may do, just make up numbers, 100 feet at a time,
Something,
something like that.
you know, yeah, depending upon what phasing and how you can open and close it quicker and.
Okay.
28-3, continuation of the East Side Passenger Terminal. Again, it's reimbursement to new HVN LLC for previous completed work of 3.5 million out of entitlement. So we're showing them how we anticipate spending the money that will be coming into the airport. 28-4. Noise soundproofing, continuation of that program. This is $4 million, $3 million in Part 150, 1 million in PFC. We're getting close to the end. 29-1 is continuation of East Side, and that's phase 6, again, reimbursement. We laid out the money, we did the work, now we're going to get reimbursed, and that's FAA entitlement of $3.8 million. 29-2 is an update to the noise exposure map. We've committed, and FAA has told us we need to, after we complete the runway, update the Part 150. And that's what this is indicating. Majority of that money is coming out of 150 and some of it to PSC. Project 30-1 is again phase 7 of the East Side, and it's reimbursement. The work is probably already done by now, it's just reimbursing for those. Project 30-2 is a placeholder for an AIP project. We have entitlement money coming in at $986,000 roughly. So it most likely would involve some work over in the FBO area. 30-3 is continuation of noise soundproofing, another $1 million, 900,000 in part 150 and 100,000 from BSC. That would be based on the part 150 study noise mapping that was done in the prior year. As I said, this was in the early part, but you saw how everything was broken down. This is the roll up for each one of those. So when you look at, all those obstruction analysis and usements, that's going to cost 2.2 million. Estimated it started last year and for this year, we'll go through 27. So grand total, you can see it's a pretty hefty project, $246,950,000 over 5 years.
Thanks, Tom.
Sorry for the link, but again, this is part of what they're required to send us, and that's what we have been working with FAA on, how we're going to allocate our money when it's dispersed to us.
Where does the fuel? So I think a couple meetings ago, we talked about Robinson getting some kind of permit for a temporary fuel farm, but where does
They would have to fund it.
they would have to fund it themselves?
And
So FAA doesn't pay for any of that.
No. I was in Nantucket, we own the fuel farm, we rehabbed it, we have to.
Rich, you had a question for Tom? Thank you, Tom.
I do, thank you, and Tom, I actually have two questions. When you refer to FAA entitlement funding, and I understand that from Tweed's perspective, it's a formula funding from FAA, but on the FAA side, and I don't want to get too deep into the nuances of federal funding, but is it entitlement mandatory spending available to the FAA, or is that annual appropriations that we might need to ask Rosa DeLauro for her help in making sure that that pot of money exists?
No, the pot of money normally exists. It comes from the reauthorization bill for FAA. So, we may ask for support of a new reauthorization bill when that comes up, but the entitlement itself money it's essentially guaranteed to the airport.
Yep.
However, if, let's say, they put in a low number in the reauthorization bill, that might affect the amount that you get back. But historically, over the years, it's been rock solid. And I use an estimate of about $3 per in-plane passenger that you're entitled to. So
Great.
where we would ask for, support might be in the discretionary side.
Got it. Okay.
Competing
So
with every other airport in the country.
it sounds like it's coming out of the trust fund. And my second question is, it looked as if the only area where we saw local funding is for the new East Side terminal and parking. And I'm not sure if I've got that right, but is the local source, is that Avports?
Yes.
Thank you.
Tom?
Another question? Mark?
Couple questions. One, on the acquisition for the easements, will that involve taking any residential homes, or will it just involve land?
At this point, we don't anticipate any residential homes. There's a piece of land for that taxiway project that we may need to acquire the land. Most of it, I believe, Mark, is anticipated to be things such as trees and obstructions of that nature.
Good. And the other question is just, it's probably very difficult, but is there any bar chart? I understand the years and the chronology, but as to the timing of the various pieces of the project when you actually will start and go through design, development, and get the construction plan and drawings.
The Gantt chart.
So like a Gantt
A
chart.
Gantt chart, yeah.
I can check. I believe there is one.
Projects.
I think
Yeah.
for each project, but you put them all together and
It's probably, yeah.
it's unwieldy, but I will check on that.
It's the allocation formula for Tweed. As Tweed grows, I'm sure that allocation formula is going to change. And when would that be reviewed? Is that an annual review by the FAA?
Well, It's a good question because you lag a little bit.
Hmm.
So we technically meet the qualifications for a non-hub airport, or I'm sorry, small hub airport. We were previously a non-hub. Yeah. But it lags about a year and a half or so. And the only thing that really does is that classification of group of airports is allocated X chunk of money. And there was one little nuance as a non-hub airport. We may have gotten some additional money for a terminal, but now as a small hub, you're not eligible for that. But the dollars and cents don't change dramatically, so. Except as you get into the major ones, they see a decrease because the assumption is they can afford PFCs and other funding sources.
Great. Any more questions? Any other questions for Tom? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Thank
I
you,
just-
Tom. That was a great
I
job.
have just
Another
two
comment?
other items.
Oh, perfect.
The economic impact analysis, unfortunately, our consultants both suffered some health issues, and they indicated that the next date that we should see a deliverable from them is December 16th. We have nothing else other than what was submitted or presented at the September board meeting, so we're anxious to get that, and as soon as we do, we'll be glad to spread that far and wide. Okay. Statistics, they're in your packet for August. We're up 33% in employments over last August. Year to date, the employments are up 13%. And for a 12-month period, our total employments were 535,685. And again, that's the number that's key to tying that to the entitlement dollars. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. One more time, any questions, any final questions for Tom? Great, thank you, Tom. Seeing none, we'll move on to the Finance Committee report. Serena?
Good evening, everybody. I apologize for my camera's out. So I'm going to do this really quickly. We have reviewed the financials for the month of September, and Tom is going to give that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena.
Thank you, Serena. On the in the airfield account for September, the revenues excluding lessee subsidy of 175,661 came in 23,651 better than budget. And the actual subsidy was under budget by 117,797 for the month. Year to date, the revenues excluding 508,109 subsidy revenues are 193,422 better than budgeted by 80,659. The expenses in the airfield account for September, actual expenses came in under budget by 94,146. Year-to-date expenses of 701,531 are below budget by 291,606. In the admin account, the revenues for September were below budget by 32,685. Year-to-date actual revenues are below budget by 94,860. Expenses. The admin expense side for the month, they were 43,335 under budget. Year to date, actual expenses are under budget by 143,465. Actual net results for the admin fund for September were a positive 3,763, and year to date are up 12,144. On the balance sheet, the fund balance at the end of this period is 200 and I have the wrong number in here, so I can't quote that. I miscalculated. I apologize to losing your packet. The overall liabilities and fund balances are 1,100,000 and 1.2.
Okay, hold this time. What's the incorrect number and what's the correct number?
Let me pull up this packet. I'll tell you in a second.
Packet says 267, 316.
For the fund balance. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm reading the equipment. Yeah, you're right. Fund balance 267, 316. And total liabilities and fund balances are 1,100,122.
The packet's correct, you know, for long.
Yes, just
Yeah,
packet,
I know.
packet is correct.
When I typed my notes, I had an extra number in there. I'm like, no, I know it's not that.
Thanks for clarity.
Next, financial report.
All right, great. Any questions on the financial report? Great. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Serena. To Jeremy, airport manager's report, please.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Jeremy.
Appreciate everyone's time. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Greetings from Kansas City. I just attended a AAAE conference for the last couple of days. Got a chance to see the new Kansas City terminal. It's beautiful, so we'll be sure to take some notes and maybe give you some reporting on that later. But give you a few updates from, if you don't mind, I'll combine both reports together and then happy to take questions at the end. I as well have a presentation. I only have 88 slides, so I'll be a little just kidding. So if you can let me present, let's see here. Where's my present
I did, I just said.
share? Everyone see that?
Yeah.
Good. All right, and thank you to Milena for helping me pull this together. So happy to report. We received November 5th. We received our 2024 airport inspection closeout from the FAA from our inspection back in April. The timing delay on that was simply just took the inspectors a little bit of time to get back just to verify some updated paint markings. So we are good there. Just airside, we're focused on, right now snow and obviously the Breeze startup on December 10th. So we've been meeting with, we had a meeting on November 15th with both carriers, Avelo and Breeze, and just talking through operational, just startup discussions on, how different scenarios will be handled and working together. And we are scheduled to have a full-scale ORAT, operational readiness, full-scale exercise on December 4th. So we're working together to pull that together, and that's just an opportunity for both sides just to, walk through, how that first day is gonna look, and just see if there's anything that needs to be tweaked, and kind of learn from some potential, any concerns that may pop up, before opening day. So we are working towards that end. Just going into, just kind of dovetail off of some of the things that Tom was discussing. I wanted to give you an update on some projects that may not be, on Tom's list, but some things that the new HVN has been working on. And this is also part of kind of what, we are obligated to report to the board on a yearly basis. So I thought it'd be good to do it at the same time as Tom did his presentation. But, we've been talking about various projects over the last several months, and those projects have come to fruition. So one of those was the Arrivals washrooms. That's a full rehab of both men's and women's, and it doubled our capacity in both. So that was just completed this month. So there's a couple pictures there. And so if you're on site, pop your head in and you'll see, the finished product there. Terminal ramp resurfacing, that was also completed this month. We did a 2-inch mill and overlay on all the gates. Also did some regrading out on the taxiway to fix some ponding. And we are now restriped, ready for Breeze starting on the 10th again. We can accommodate the largest aircraft that we currently have flying into the fleet at all 5 gates. So that gives us a lot more flexibility. And so that is another project we're happy to report has been completed. The terminal fence project on the east side, the east side fence project. We installed 1,700 linear feet of new perimeter fencing that opens up the opportunity for us to eventually, once we get all the appropriate approvals, the construction of the east terminal. And this also, we're using this space for some operational contingency in the meantime, for just as we start to see, increased activity on the east side. But we relocated the delivery gate, put in some new pavement for the access road. It also helps us with deliveries of, fuel and whatnot, just gives us more space to maneuver. And so we are, that project has been completed. Grazing Goat, if you haven't had a chance to see it, that's been completed up on the second floor. We've mentioned that several times, but just wanted to kind of show you what that looks like in real, personally. So that's really good. They're doing good sales and gets good reception from the customers. So it's a good project. This is a picture of the vending machines that we've installed at Gate 2. We talked about our partnership with RJ Julia Booksellers, a women minority owned business. And we also have some travel essentials that we're also offering the customers. So that's been gotten a good reception as well. In our preparation for the additional air carrier activity, we've created a new operations center landside. We're calling it the Bridge. Has a good, as you can see out the windows there, good visibility of the ramp. Centrally located, just closer to the terminal. But this will be where our staff will essentially control the ramp and just have a good oversight of the terminal. And we're actually, we've actually, we reported before, we've hired a terminal manager. We're hiring additional staff of I believe 8 additional what we're calling ramp coordinators, and then ramp controllers, and then 2 customer service positions as well. So we're moving forward there. We've installed the 5 EV chargers in the rental car lot. So that's promoting use of electrical vehicles, both commercially and then as well as internally in our operations. We're starting to grow a percentage of our fleet into turning that into EV. Ticket counters, we installed a new ticket counter in the ticketing trailer, as well as 4 new low profile scales, much more user friendly for the customer. As you can see, just they don't have to lift their bag up very high. It's got a little ramp in the front there. So replace some aging equipment. So that'll be that position you're looking at there will be Breeze, and then subsequently the positions to the right are Avela, which we also resurfaced with new laminate. We installed a new baggage claim office, just better visibility, more accessible for the customer as they walk into the baggage claim area. So it gives us some more space there. You're looking at some new refurbished office space for the new air kit for Breeze and their new ground handler. So we refreshed that space. Did some carpeting and painting throughout the terminal. Resurfaced the siding on portions of the arrivals terminal. And, we're always looking at ways to keep things fresh and doing some landscaping. This is what you see there is our latest for the holidays, a little bit of evergreens and seasonal plantings there. And then as we look forward to 2024 or the rest of 2024 into 25, the ticketing trailer, we're adding a canopy to the entrance to give customers some cover in the event that the lines tend to extend outside, putting in an automatic sliding door, a little bit more a little more easy access into the structure there. We're adding a mother's room to Gate 2. for nursing. And then we're also creating some more space for wheelchairs and things like that. And then Tom noted on his report, now that we've knocked out the ramp and the east fence, we're focusing on scoping the ARF expansion of the ARF building, and then the snow removal area as well. In addition to the larger projects, obviously the terminal and the runway. And I think, and then as far as staffing, we are also going to be hiring an SMS manager, safety management systems manager. That's basically overseeing an organizational wide systematic approach for managing safety and risk. So that'll, obviously it'd be good to have someone just focusing solely on that. And then also environmentally, we're looking to add some folks on our staff. It'll just be focused on things like noise and some other components of that. So that is the conclusion of my report. Happy to take any questions.
Jeremy, I have a question. So can you speak to with the startup of the Breeze on 1210? Talk about the Breeze ground crew operations. How's that going to work? Will they be sourced from Bradley with the limited flights that Breeze is going to start off with? So will they be sourced from Bradley, or will they be permitted to HVN?
Well, my understanding is they'll be based at HVN. So it's Trago Dugan. Dugan is the company that was hired or contracted out by Breeze. They've hired a site manager will be here every day. Where we've met with them actually this last Friday. They're hired. We just did badging classes for about 30 of their employees, so they're ramping up, but they will be on site. They could be pulling some people from Bradley. I'm not exactly sure, but they do have a dedicated team here. And they're, Traeger Dugan's, nationally known. They're all over the place, but I do believe they do some work at Bradley. And so, happy to welcome them to HVN and, support them as best we can to make sure they're first, moving forward, it goes smoothly for them. So.
Any questions? David? Dave, I think you're on mute.
Hey, Jeremy. I have a question. Are they going to be using the JetBridge Breeze?
They may. We're still working through some of the scheduling of both air carriers. And the way it stands today, as it is today, they could use the JetBridge for their first departure of the day, and then subsequently they would do turns on gates 2, 3, or 4. It's difficult to do enplanements off of the JetBridge because if you have a terminal full of people, it's just hard to get people through the terminal and out the side door. We just typically don't. Today we don't manage it that way. So the safest way to do it, the most efficient way to do it, we can do departures off of the JetBridge, but that would be just the first for the day.
So their last flight would come into the JetBridge, and the first
No, their last flight of the day would come to 2, 3, or 4, and then they would deplane into the like Avelo does today.
Even one that comes in, I see they have one coming in pretty late from West Palm, like in
So they won't be RONing. They won't be parking on a gate at this time. So they would be
okay.
Remote location. So that's where it gives us a little bit more flexibility where they would start in the morning.
So when they come in, there's some flights coming in from West Palm late in February, March. They come in like at 10 o'clock. Their planes are going to go out after that.
Like a turn after 10.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was.
I don't think they would have any departures.
Okay.
date I don't have their schedule in front of me, but I don't think there's any departures.
Okay, maybe I got them mixed up. They were gonna be going the other way. That's okay. Thanks.
Yep. You're welcome.
Thanks, Jeremy. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, Jeremy, I mentioned it earlier, in one of the earlier meetings, we talked about Robinson Aviation. I think you reported that they were putting a temporary application in. Temp fuel farm application. I was just wondering if you knew where that was.
I know there's a 30-day comment period, so I think we're close to meeting that timeline. I have not heard anything back from Robinson Aviation on the status of that since our last meeting. We meet with them every week. We met with them last Thursday. So we'll be meeting with them tomorrow, and we'll have an update and see if they've heard anything back. But we're getting close to that 30-day turnaround time.
And that's with the FAA?
No, that's for the state of Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we and then we have, we did present the plan to FAA, and they didn't really have many comments on it other than, just making sure we were meeting that NFPA 407 and, any spacing issues with hangars and things like that. So, but we're good on that end.
So Jeremy, after the 30-day expires, what happens then? What's the next step?
Well, the 30 days is just the
comment
state.
period.
The state would give their opinion on the project. So after the 30-day comment period.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Jeremy. Good job. Okay. Tom,
All right,
engagement.
so we had another full month of community meetings, partnerships, and meaningful conversations. We kicked off October, thrilled to partner with the East Shore Community Management Team in supporting the 2024 Morris Cove Halloween Parade. It was wonderful to see hundreds of children and their families turning out to celebrate this 80-plus-year-old community tradition. We also joined the City of New Haven's Board of Alders Black and Hispanic Caucus as a sponsor for their 13th Fall Recognition Gala. And so we extend our congratulations to all the awardees who are recognized and everyone who was involved in organizing such a fantastic event. Last month, we also held an employee appreciation dinner at Stony Creek Brewery, where we recognized 3 outstanding Avports employees who have each served at the airport for over 25 years. So a combined 75+ years of experience here at the airport. And just yesterday, we welcomed leadership from the Connecticut Business and Industry Association for a tour of the airport and to discuss how the airport's growth is unlocking new opportunities for businesses across the region and across the state of Connecticut. I also wanted to express our gratitude for our 2 interns from East Haven High School. Since joining us, they've had the opportunity to tour the airport and operations watch room, learn from and ride along with our airside operations supervisor to conduct runway sweeps and airfield taxiway checks, and more recently shadow our customer service specialists in our departures terminal. And so we thank them for their hard work and continuing to be valuable members of the HVN team. And lastly, before I share updates on our recent community meetings, I'd like to highlight the incredible work of the East Haven Rotary Club and their annual program to deliver free Thanksgiving dinners to East Haven residents. As the holiday season approaches, we're proud to support this important initiative and certainly encourage everyone to consider donating to their local food pantry or to the East Haven Rotary Club to help those in need this Thanksgiving and holiday season. As a follow-up to our June community meeting in the past month, we hosted 2 community meetings on November 12th. We held a community update on traffic calming and mitigation measures with the City of New Haven, where Giovanni Zinn, the city's engineer, presented the findings of recent traffic studies and proposed solutions for calming traffic in and around the airport. And just last night, on November 19th, we held a meeting with representatives from EnviroSuite at the Nathan Hale School to walk through WebTrack, a new online platform that will provide community members real-time access to information on local aircraft activity and noise levels. WebTrack is used by over 60 airports worldwide and will help us increase transparency and understanding of local airspace operations and noise activities. Both of these meetings were recorded, and so I'll just point out that copies of the presentations and copies of the recordings are available on our website under the Community Resources page. And I'd also like to note that these are not one and done meetings, but ongoing conversations, and we'll certainly keep everybody in the loop as both of these topics progress. So looking ahead to the next month, tomorrow, the AvPorts team will partner again with Connecticut Food Share around our annual holiday partnership. A group of volunteers from the airport will be heading over to the New Haven Community Soup Kitchen, which provides healthy and nutritious meals to everyone that goes through their doors. And so the Community Soup Kitchen has since 1977 and continues to help improve the quality of life of those it serves. And provides hot meals and groceries to anyone in New Haven County. Then later in December, we're looking forward to the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce's Economic Outlook Breakfast, where Michael Jones will provide the keynote address, showcasing Tweed's positive economic impact on the local economy and role in driving innovation and economic vibrancy for the region and for the state. And so that concludes my report, but before the next board meeting, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy, healthy, and restful Thanksgiving holiday.
Thank you, thank you. Any questions for Tom?
Yeah. Where is Michael getting that information from if we haven't gotten the economic impact assessment done yet?
I think, I think we have, certainly information to utilize to articulate the value proposition of the airport's growth and expansion in the region. And I think, another part of that conversation is just to make sure that the business community and everybody is informed as well about what's happening here on the airport and our future growth plans.
And then before you came on board, Andrew was putting together a matrix of all the, can't remember the name, is it VOC or whatever, right? Of all those comments coming in and then what we were doing to try to answer those questions. Did you pick that up, and where is that, and where can we see some of that and how you're answering those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I certainly picked that up. And so as the VOC complaints come through, I'm responding to all of them in real time. We're also looking at updating that form so we can better track that information and catalog it according to issues. And then parallel to that as well, and kind of dovetailing into our conversation about WebTrack and the flight monitoring, will also include functionality for residents when they submit a concern about a noise. They'll be able to actually relate it to a specific aircraft in the area. And that's going to further allow us to analyze, look at, and investigate those complaints and get back with more specific information.
And the last question I didn't get to make the meeting, but the air traffic controller meeting that we had.
Yep.
There were some questions I don't think were answered based on what I've been reading. Is that something you're handling or the air traffic controllers are handling to get those questions answered?
Yeah, so certainly we're working with them to make sure that all the outstanding questions are addressed. Part of the challenge is of course, that the relationship between air traffic control, the airport, the airlines, and a pilot are very complex.
Yep.
And so not all those answers exist within the air traffic control universe, let's say.
Yep.
And so similar to all the other community meetings that we've been having, we're going to continue to have these conversations. And as those concerns get raised, possibly host meetings specific to those outstanding concerns, but certainly working with residents and neighbors on those outstanding concerns.
Yeah, good. Any further questions for Tom? I will note for board members, the community soup kitchen event tomorrow is scheduled from 11 to 2, and the address is 84 Broadway in New Haven. Is that right, Tom?
I believe so.
Okay, great. So please, if you could attend, I'm sure you won't be turned away. Yeah, thank you, Tom. Reports and action items, there are none. Other business, any board member would like to present any other business for discussion?
I have one thing I want to bring.
Sure, what, go ahead.
I brought this up, I think 2 meetings ago about the issues that some of the residents are having nearby if they want to apply for the noise mitigation, and that they're restricted due to FEMA restrictions on, making total amount of money or changes to their property because of the FEMA restrictions.
Yeah.
Andrew said he was going to talk to possibly a Dallas Dodge. I'm not even sure who that is, but I had written it down. I don't know if that's on your lap now, Tom, or not, but I mean, if there's something we can do to go, again, lobby the politicians to try to put some exceptions in the rule book for some of the local people that may have put like solar panels on their house and now they can't get noise mitigation because the cost of the solar panels and the noise mitigation puts them up against that restriction for FEMA. I think that would be a good thing if we could try to push on that.
Yeah, I can add that to my agenda and provide a follow-up to
Yeah.
the next board meeting.
Please. And the only other question I had was, is there a status on the Fonzie? Do you know?
No.
Okay. Anybody?
I think
There's Q on or?
on the EA appeal,
He's just talking about the EA appeal, yeah.
Yeah,
the appeal to Fonzie.
yeah,
Yeah, so,
You-
we can have the attorney provide a legal update. We'll present it to you guys.
because I think things were briefs were supposed to be submitted within the last month.
Yeah,
I believe briefs were submitted recently,
Okay,
but we'll get you an update.
Yeah, but rather can have an update come straight from the attorney.
yeah, okay.
Instead of a compacted email.
No worries. That's all I had.
All right,
Thanks.
great. Any other questions or any other new business, other business? Great, seeing none. Great job, everyone. Thank you. Felipe, public comments. Katrina Yuxel, excuse me if that your last name, but state your name, please, and your address. Good evening. You're on mute, Katrina.
There you go.
Can you hear us? Katrina? Katrina, check your mic, please. You're off mute. Okay, Katrina, we're going to put you back into queue. I'm sorry, but we're going to move on. Felipe? Please dial back in. Michael Giordano, good evening. Name and address, please. You're on mute, Michael.
Michael Giordano, 800 Uno Lago Drive in Juno Beach, Florida. And obviously one of Tweed's biggest fans, as I mentioned every meeting. I was watching in on last night's meeting that Tom just talked about, and it reminded me of all the other meetings I've seen on video or in person during my life, especially over the last 10 or 15 years. And I really think that, without throwing anybody under the bus, that the hosts of these various meetings from the airport side need to do a better job of keeping control of the meeting when some of the outspoken critics get the floor. Last night there was one gentleman and at least 3 women that control the narrative quite a bit with the questions and answers, and 80% of the time they went off topic and were allowed to for minutes on end before someone from the airport would try to rein the conversation back into the whole point of the meeting. And this has happened at other meetings too. I've been around, like I said, for my whole life with this airport and all the controversy and all the anti-Tweed folks, so I'm used to it. But it gets frustrating for us people just trying to learn and listen and ask the real questions. And it gets frustrating when these people constantly talk about Obviously noise is an issue and hopefully we'll work on some remedies. But specifically the ramp noise, I mean, if you live on Burr Street and you bought a house there, I mean, you hate to say it, but it's too bad. That's what you signed up for. This airport's been around for over 90 years. I attended regular board meetings like this one right now for at least 9 years when I moved back to Connecticut in 2007. And almost every meeting, you could go back probably and check all the minutes. There was some discussion about Tweed trying to improve service and gain service to the second most underserved region in the country. So this isn't new news. When these people, these outspoken critics start saying, oh, the airport just started up a few years ago, it's all BS and everyone knows it. It's been around. Luckily, we finally found an airline in Novello that believes in us and believed in us and has been successful. And now we're going to have a second airline. Sorry you live in the neighborhood, people, but that's just too bad. You should have lived there in the 70s and 80s when you had F-27 turboprops and Convair 580s that were way louder than these 737s, at least on the ramp, maybe not for takeoff. But it's too bad, people. You moved in there. That's the way it is. If you don't like it, then you're going to have to move away. The airport does a great job of working with airlines to make these schedules 6:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. Other airports don't do that. So I think the airport does a lot for the neighborhood to help them out. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you. People getting started on an early Thanksgiving. Hold on. Hi. Hi, Lorena.
Hey, it's Lorena Venegas, in East Haven. How are you?
Good, good. You know the drill. Name and address, please.
Yep, it's 73 George Street, East Haven. I went to the November, was it 6? No, the traffic meeting with Giovanni Zinn, and there were a lot of questions that were not addressed. There were only 5 people in attendance, only 3 from New Haven, only 2 from East Haven, and I was in the 2. But there are questions about car idling, Ubers, the fact that there's not going to be any traffic light at Burr and Fort Nathan Hale, and then the truck traffic. So Giovanni Zinn did not know anything of the vehicle traffic study that was already part of the FONSI. And he needs to know about that because he didn't have any real data with the amount of volume that you're going to get in the next 3 years under current conditions, including the added flights. So there has to be a little bit more thought and thinking about all those missing factors from that meeting. And there was that was on a Tuesday. And then again, you had another community meeting on a Tuesday last night. And I attended late because there's a way of doing community engagement where you actually know what's happening in the community. So I think Tom Cavalier definitely should work on figuring out, what is the best times to get people to go to these meetings? Because yesterday, when I walked in, there were maybe 10 people, and then out of the 10, 6 of them did not live in East Haven or New Haven. So that left like maybe 4 or 5 people in the room again. So, sometimes a corporation will say that they did things, that they held a meeting, and that they're doing the work. But if the room is empty, then it actually is a disservice to the community because it's not engagement. And I've written to Jorge Roberts about it because the right way to do it is to work with the community leaders and to build the bridges, which is not being done right now in East Haven or New Haven. There's a lot of breakdowns in that communication. And I understand a corporation can throw a check at a golf event, at a lobster party, but that's not helping the community because when you go to those events, a lot of those people don't live here either. So I am always looking forward to that UConn study too, because it was promised as a report in September. And that is using taxpayer apparatus. Even though you paid a fee, it's still taxpayer money. So we definitely want to make sure we get that study released. And as far as, East Haven, People listening on this call, like the state representatives Joe Zullo and Paul Ciccarella and Christine Cohen, we definitely want to make sure we change the Connecticut statute for Tweedy Airport Authority to give more leverage to East Haven, because right now you see how muted members, just being 5, doesn't really add to the conversation, doesn't give us leverage in anything. So let's make equal playing field, because that's the right way to do business, is to be inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorena. Gloria Belichico, good evening. Name and address, please.
Hi, Lori Bellachico, 300 Lighthouse Road, New Haven, Connecticut. I'm going to start with some bad stuff and then end with some good stuff. Although after hearing this meeting, I don't know, it's going to be hard to, anyway. With the traffic circle being considered for Dean and Burr Street, circumventing cars from the arrivals and out Burr Street to Townsend Avenue is an unsafe proposal. Please, when you sit down with the city, I implore airports to push the other option of using Hall Street. While it may affect the neighbors on Hall Street, having the traffic come out on First Street, where there's a school, a church, a senior center, and a food pantry, is dangerous. While there is a raised pedestrian zone to slow down traffic by the school, it doesn't work the way it should. Also, pulling out of Burr Street onto Townsend Avenue is hazardous because of the sharp bend from the seawall. It's just a bad idea. I had a petition with 372 signatures from people who were against the 50 cars that would have been using the church for satellite airport parking. While the title of the petition is specifically against parking at St. Bernadette's, the body of the petition is the way the airport is circumventing their traffic past children and seniors. Please don't bring airport traffic past the light on Fort Hale. I can get neighbors to sign another petition against this. It's just a hassle, but I'm willing to do that. I think a traffic study needs to be done. Please revisit other ways to get traffic out of the airport, or simply tell Breeze we can't accommodate you. Now onto the good stuff. I want to thank Airports for their donation to the Halloween parade. We were able to carry on a Morris Cove tradition, and I appreciate all that Andrew King and Tom Cavalier have done for that. I also wanted to thank both of them for being present during our East Shore management team meeting. To me, it shows good faith in being a part of the community. I look forward to other projects we can do together in the future. I would also like to remind everyone that Tweed is a part of the community. The city of New Haven, as well as Tweed, should continue to work with the community in doing the right things with traffic and keeping the community safety as a priority, always. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Bennett, good evening. Name and address, please.
Hi, Catherine Bennett, Thompson Avenue in East Haven. First of all, I didn't realize that you had a new application for a temporary fuel farm down at Robinson. I would like to know what Connecticut organization or department you're working with. I don't think that was made as public as it probably should, and I would like to know before the public comment period is over. I'm also disappointed to see that in your future plans here, you don't have an upgraded de-icing collection and recycling facility plan. I know you've done that at other airports. I think Albany is one of your airports, and they have an award-winning one. And I'm disappointed that you haven't made any plans for an upgraded system. De-icing fluid does contain glycol, and I realize you adjust the pH, but when all of that is dumped into the waterways, it acts like an algae bloom and can severely lower the oxygen content of the water, which we know is a problem in our waterways here and in Long Island Sound. The third thing is on your financials here on the plans, you project that you are going to be making an awful lot of money from this passenger facilities charge. Millions and millions and millions. And I hope you have a backup plan for if all of a sudden, people stop flying and the flights drop, or some of these airlines go bankrupt, like Spirit, I think, is going bankrupt. There's another pandemic, there's a recession, and people stop flying. I feel that you've really expect a lot of money from that. And I don't even know, has that been approved yet? I know you had to apply for permission to do that. I believe from the FAA, I did see that someplace. But I think you should relook at those numbers. Anyway, thank you very much. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tony Laurenti, good evening. Name and address, please.
Good evening, everyone. Tony Laurenti, 23 Briar Lane, Meriden, Connecticut. Speaking as Tweed New Haven Airport's Airport Liaison Representative, Airline Pilots Association. First, to just encapsulate Tom Rafter's report, as well as much of the synergy going on at the airport under Jeremy and Felipe, their staff, Avports. This is actually a very exciting time for Tweed New Haven Airport. Those who have been a part of the community for many decades. It's fascinating from an engineering and technology standpoint to see the various projects phased literally and figuratively. It's a demonstration of the high-skilled technology, labor, and high-paying labor that's going to bring it all to fruition. Never thought I'd see a time. I always had faith in Tweed, but I have to say this is awesome. And then again, rolling into the more immediate future, Jeremy and Felipe's work, the rolling out of the proverbial welcome mat. Thank you. I look forward to being a part on a regular basis of this excellent airport. Additionally to the EnviroTrack or EnviroSuite and WebTrack meeting last night, I could concur with the unruly nature, disrespectful, and oftentimes harassing of airport staff, the off-track nature of the discussion, the incessant discontent. This is exactly what the neighborhood has asked for: tracking, monitoring. We now have quantitative, substantive information, and we'll soon be able to encapsulate. I look forward to seeing if any reports of aircraft flying 50 feet over someone's home are actually real. Jeremy, again, going back to Jeremy, I want your job. I'd like to work at the airport rather than flying. Some questions were asked. Again, if you could give me some quarter that I'm not the authority. The operation up at Bradley is a separate handling company than the one that will be in New Haven. So they will be two separate and distinct companies. And I can also say, roughly speaking, without committing 100%, of course, but nearly so, there will be no flights after 10 p.m. And I look forward to seeing all of you on a pretty regular basis from the comfort of my airplane. And you're all welcome to take a tour as long as you don't make me late. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Tony. Minute. Okay, it's 5:30. We're gonna close the public comment portion of this meeting. Wait, did someone leave it? No? Okay, great. So 5:30, we're gonna close the public portion of this, public comment portion of this meeting. Thank you. Before I make a motion to adjourn, any other comments from the board? On behalf of the board, at least I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all those who celebrate. If you're traveling, be safe. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mike, second? Mark?
Second.
All right, thank you, Linda. Good look at
Happy
your grand-
Thanksgiving to all.
Happy Thanksgiving, Linda. Good
Happy
look at your grand
Thanksgiving,
opening.
everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. And we will close.
Bye now.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.